Okay, I'm going to give this a go and see if I can actually do this. Okay, let's wrap up basically the scheduling unit itself. In schedule control, we have to make sure we're keeping things online. So we have to make sure that the changes have been agreed to, the schedule's been changed, and we manage the changes when we've agreed to actually do the change itself. So in other words, it's just yet another example of ICC. And in fact, if we treat ICC appropriately, it can be done. But it's so important that we emphasize this in the PMBOK to make sure that it gets done if we don't do ICC regularly. So now we've got the project management plan and the schedule baseline performance data coming in. Here are some of the things that we can do to actually handle the schedule itself and then get the project back on track. So the purpose of this is to make sure we're staying on track in terms of schedule. If not, can we get ourselves back on schedule by taking special activities? Maybe risks have eventuated, things like that. Or if we're going to be late, then we want to report on delays and cancellations or descoping and things like that to our stakeholders. Remember, the one thing a stakeholder does not like is a nasty surprise. The sooner you can report on bad news, the better for the project itself. So those are our standard inputs here. The only thing that's really different is the work performance data that's going to indicate when we're falling behind in terms of the schedule, although the project manager is probably going to know that already. Now, the modeling techniques, we can do what-if scenarios, best case, worst case scenarios, that sort of thing. We can try and do simulations, particularly with PERT diagrams and three-point estimates. Take the best case estimates all the time, take the worst case estimates all the time, get a measure of the difference between the two, and then that's basically a form of sensitivity analysis to find out how sensitive project schedule is to being delayed or being sped up. The organizational process assets here, likely the organization will tell us about the earned value for the cost and schedule variance. And it will set stoplight values. If you're within certain tolerances, then you can still go ahead. If you get into slightly worse tolerances, then we yellow light it. In other words, caution, danger's coming. And finally, if it gets way out of control, we red light it, stop the project, analyze what's going on, and fix it. Okay, so here are some of the techniques that we can actually use. Performance reviews, and these are going to be basically done regularly. We're going to report on our earned value because that's going to tell us when we get off track. We can demand the trend analyses be done, that the critical path method or critical chain method be used. The project management software automatically compares baseline against actuals, so we can constantly compare this is what we planned to do and this is what we actually did. And based on that information, Microsoft Project, for example, can predict the finish time based on the individual status right now. Modeling techniques, we want to know when corrective action can be taken, and we can actually change the actual schedule itself to get back on track again. But we have to be very careful because this is a very dangerous approach. We could make the schedule even worse by trying to fritz it. And then in terms of schedule compression, as we've seen, we can try fast tracking and crashing. And then the outputs from schedule control are basically going to be the work performance information, hopefully good. We'll have schedule forecasts, change requests have been approved, and then the corresponding updates based on those change requests. And that's about it. Oh, and there's my favorite quote from Santayana. Those who ignore the failure lessons of history are doomed to repeat them.